Hey everybody, this is Perch. I think if you listen to the show for any length of time, you'll know I'm not a big fan of Funko Pop. Now, why? Why not a fan of Funko Pop? I mean, Funko Pop is just a product. Why why? Well, I'll give you my reason, which is maybe I don't know, it's from a retailer perspective. My concerns with Funko Pop or why I've never liked them as a product. First of all, the margin that you get is small. It's a relatively thin amount of money that you can make off of Funko Pop products. It is it does relatively poorly for the amount of shelf space. And then one of its benefits, I mean, this is one of those things. If you're a fan, this is a good thing. If you're somebody carrying the products, it's a bad thing. Funko Pop, the company had kind of boasted that one, they have more licenses than anywhere else. That's great. And two, that they can go from concept to shelf, basically from I want to do a product to, and now it's here in the stores in about 6 to 7 weeks. You can go from idea to in a box on your shelf. So why is that a bad thing? Well, I mean, again, if you're a fan, that's a great thing. You can have this new character relatively quickly. If you're a retailer, it means lots of rotating stock, and when you have a thin margin on that stock, it's a pain in the ass, just bluntly. The other challenge I think with Funko Pop in specialty stores and comic stores is that your competition is Walmart, Target, others that are going to have bigger volume, can afford to, run promotions and discounts on it. It's just very hard to compete with that. So your only benefit to carrying Funko Pop, which take up a massive amount of space in your store, and for again relatively low margin, is that you've got kind of obscure ones there. Then you're hoping that some fan of some pop culture thing comes into the pop culture store, sees a toy or figure based on what it is that they like, and they pick it up. But you're not having, generally, if you're somebody who owns a store, you want stock coming in and out of your store a lot. And if you're a comic shop, you really don't love the idea of having just more backlog of material. You already have back issues. By the way, I went to a comic shop over the weekend in the Dallas. I was up in Plano actually, and it was a really cool shop. So it's called Madness Games and Comics. If you've ever been, it's a really really cool shop. Um, Lots and lots of material, nice and big, didn't smell, all the right things were there. So really cool shop, really nice staff. Here's the sad part. I had to search for the comics. The comics were in the store. They're in the back left corner. But for some place it was probably advertising like comics and games on the front. It was hard to find the comics. They were there, but you had to search around a little bit, or maybe if you just go clockwise when you go into the store, maybe you get to it faster. But I went counterclockwise, so I was like, I cannot find these things anywhere. Finally, up against a wall in the back left. But regardless, sorry, went off track. They had a big collection of Funko Pop there. But the thing that you want in your stores, you want stuff coming in and going. You don't want to have a large collection of things that are they're just kind of waiting for somebody to come and buy them. And for that reason, Funko, Pop weren't the best product. The other problem I have with it, or have had, I don't know, is that it's a bit of a trap. Meaning, you have customers who come in who are infrequent customers. So when you think about a shop for a moment, you've got regulars, and then you have people who kind of, oh, let's go in and see what kind of pop culture stuff is in there today. I like sci-fi shows. Let's see what they've got. The regulars are how you make your money. The others are kind of the frosting on top. Those people, it's hard to, you don't know who they are. You don't know what they're going to be interested in. You're kind of fishing for products. You want to have some stuff on hand so you can sell something to them, but it's not the easiest group to market and to sell to. So anyway, that that group tends to be the Funko Pop buyers. And given that there's a massive amount of different properties and they're coming out with new stuff all the time and everything else, and it was popular for a period of time, you had collector versions, you had different paint versions, you had kind of variants of characters and all the rest. And so a lot of stores bought in and kept buying in and bought in and bought in and bought in and bought in. And before they knew it, they had a massive collection of these products that don't move very quickly, that you don't get a great margin off of. And they're just kind of sitting there, and then they're hard to get rid of. The value, for things that aren't sitting well, I mean, it's just there's no real place to sell them. So I think as a product, they're a pain in the ass. Again, I'm telling you all this from a business perspective. I think that I've said this before to people, and they're like, "What's your problem with it?" I mean, I just like having them around. That's cool. Again, as a fan, a lot of what they do is cool. Keep in mind, by the way, Funko started up in, I think, Snohomish. It was up in Washington State. And if you go to Everett, there's a Funko Pop kind of store. I don't know if it still exists, actually. It may not. But anyway, but pre-COVID, it existed. There's a store there. They had kind of a little museum and a bunch of oversized. It's a cool place to go. I took my daughters there. They loved it. They never liked the toys. It was weird because I would say, "Hey, do you want to buy one, take one?" "No, I'm good." But they love looking at them, and they love this store with all these different characters and everything, and it's cool. There's a lot of things about this company that's great. But as somebody carrying their products, it's a bitch. And as somebody, if you're thinking about kind of the health rating of Funko for a comic shop, it's unhealthy. It's just not a good product to have, and so that's a challenge. So why are we talking about Funko Pop? Well, I mean, it's a topic people ask me about all the time. But the news is over the weekend, they basically sent up a little bit of a flare, saying that hey, they have a problem. So what's going on? Well, they've been declining for a few years. Why? I mean, again, no giant mystery. They're declining because it's a collectible type thing. It had a fad like Beanie Babies. That fad is coming to an end. The supply just got to be, you can find them everywhere, and so scarcity went away. And put it this way: when you can get, what was it like, Albertsons were carrying them. Like if you could get them in Albertsons, like how cool is this at this point? And so demand went down. A couple years ago, they're still making a profit, but their net sales went down about 30% versus the previous year. Now, keep in mind, if memory serves, their net sales back in like 2021, 20 were over like $1.5 billion. So I mean, it's not like oh, this company is barely scratching by. No, I mean they made $1.5 billion. And keep in mind again, they boasted about having more licenses than anyone else, which I don't know if it's true, but certainly they'd be in the running for it. I think it's believable. But that's also why there's such a low margin for the store, because they've got to pay the licensor, they need to pay themselves, and then whatever is left over, the store can take for a markup. So it's again, as a product, it's not an ideal product that you want to sell. I think the bigger issue is their net sales were more down. So they're down, I think, 1 to 4% year over year. They also made some kind of comment that when you take gross versus net, they had made just very, very little money. And so this is a challenge. I think just the news of Q3, so 3-month quarter this year, 2025, net income of about 0.9 million, so less than $1 million of revenue on 250 million. So it again, that's net income off of revenue. So they're making money, but increasingly it's net even. They're treading water, and it's going to impact their ability to get licenses, going to impact their distribution sales, all the rest. And then Funko made a statement, and this is what a lot of people are reacting to, saying, "We have substantial doubt about our ability to continue as a going concern." That's the headline that everybody got. Basically, people interpreted that to say, we don't know if we can last another year. There's another part to that sentence, by the way. That's not the whole sentence. And this is the part I haven't seen other people talk about, which is the second part: without new funding or a takeover or restructuring. Okay, that second part of the sentence is really important because generally speaking, companies, especially ones that are making, or bringing in or moving money around in the billions, do not just one day go, we're fucked, and then just close up the doors and are done. Generally, they signal they're looking to be purchased, which Funko would love to be purchased. They've wanted that for quite some time. Or they're talking about a restructuring. This is where they're going to, change the way that the company operates. Could be, it's going to be through money, but also through some people, and that's also very attractive. If you have members of an activist board, if you have investors that are looking to get out, if you have, there's a number of reasons why you might artificially manufacture a restructuring, and that's always the case. So, is Funko going to disappear next year? No. No, they're sitting on things that are a couple things that are highly valuable. They do have licenses. They can certainly get acquired, which is what they deeply desire. You have people who've been in that company for a while and they would love to call it a day, as it were. You have people who would like to change their ownership stake, and so that's where restructuring would help. So there's a lot of different things that's going to happen to Funko. Is it going to disappear? No. Is it responsible for the death of the comic book industry, which is something else I've heard people say? No, but there's a but in there. But comic shops that went all in on Funko in order to supplement income they were no longer getting from comics, were making a stupid choice, and it's not that it's going to bite them in the ass, it already has. These products are not good replacements for kind of the, relatively decent margin, high amount of turnover that you'd get in comics. So, I mean, and oh, wait a minute. Did Perch just say that comics are a good investment? Well, I mean, look, if you're trying to sell comics, they're relatively cheap in, they're relatively decent margin out. Of course, you're not making millions and millions of dollars off of a comic book, but it is an easier thing as a business to buy, maintain, and flush out. And if it doesn't sell well, you have your dollar bin, and that's not great, but it's a hell of a lot. It's much different to deal with like $30, $40 of lost stock in a dollar bin than like 400 or 500. That's the point. So anyway, Funko Pop, when all is said and done, look, um, it was an unhealthy product by and large for retailers. It was great for fans. They're going to now restructure and kind of figure out who they are as a company. That's fairly normal, and life will go on. I likely with you'll see Funko in a little bit less places than you do today because it's all over the freaking place, and it's just the attractiveness to buy quotient is poor. So Funko result the cause of the death of comics again, no, but certainly any shop, whether it's Funko Pops, whether it's Pogs back in the 90s, if you go all in on a dumb product that you get very little margin on and just hope that you'll make it up in volume, it's going to bite you in the ass. And for some, it did, and it has. And, there will be some new dumb thing in the future. And on that happy note, I bid you adieu. Thanks for listening.